Unfortunately, today we still have these libertards, right? These young millennial libertards and all these leftists still pushing for socialist style leftist policies. You see them all wanting to fight against the right wingers out here. But look what they're doing to the state of New York. New York is a perfect example of what happens when you let all these lefties take over, because it leads essentially to communism. And what's happening in New York right now is a great example for stupid leftist policies. This is exactly what happens when corrupt people take control of that power, like what's going on in New York. They take over. That's when they started the communist takeover of people's private properties and businesses. They're using Trump as a scapegoat. They want to use him as an example of what happens to pro-capitalist in this country, or anybody who wants to make a good profit, anybody who wants to be an entrepreneur, a business owner, make money with real estate. The government wants to take that profit away from you. So Trump and what's going on with his business and real estate properties in New York is a perfect example of what will happen when you let these stupid, pathetic, leftist communists take over government with your vote. Now, in many cases, they would try to cheat. But when it comes to New York, the most stupid liberal state in the country, aside from California, you have to blame it on the stupid idiots in New York who voted for those stupid leftist policies. And then they want to come over to our states like Florida, they want to come to Texas with the same stupid leftist policies, with the same mentality to ruin our states. So to the New Yorkers, so to all the New Yorkers that voted leftist policies, voted for Biden and Kamala, and now you don't like it and you want to come to states like Florida, I'm telling you, just stay out. Keep your policies and that stupid mentality over in New York. Keep it in California. Don't come to my state to try to ruin it for us over here. Don't come to Texas. Don't come to Florida. Stay where you're at. That's what you voted for. For those of you who don't understand what's going on with the charges against Trump in New York, let me tell you what the charges are, because this is what communists will do. Because they're so anti-capitalism, right? They're so anti people making profit and the government not being able to cash in on that money, right? Because most rich people, what they do is that they use debt in order to have wealth. So they'll take out loans, they'll take out credit cards, mortgages, and that's what they use to get the properties that they have and live the lifestyle that they want. So it's based on debt. So of course, if people have debt, it's harder for the government to tax you more, because now instead of a high profit margin on your records, you have a record of a huge debt. So you're technically in the negative on paper, correct? So the government has a harder time taxing you on that money. But that's what a good credit is for, and the importance of getting a good credit score, so that when you want to borrow money, companies will be willing to lend you the money that you need for whatever business you have or property that you want to buy, right? And of course, it's a good way of reducing your taxes. So what the corrupt leftist government in New York is doing is that they wanted to make it illegal to be able to make a substantial profit. So that's bad news for all the real estate agents and entrepreneurs and business owners in New York, because the message that you're saying is, what's the point of even doing a business if you're not going to make a profit out of it? Trump is being charged with overinflating his net worth, overinflating the value of the property. Excuse me, but if you're a real estate agent, you buy a property at a cheaper price to sell it at the highest price you could possibly get for that property. So when the government comes in and tells you, oh, you made too much money, that's corrupt, Even though the person agreed to pay that much, or even though the bank agreed to loan you a certain amount, the government still wants to butt its nose in and say, oh, that's too much. You can't have this much money. So we gotta penalize you. We gotta charge you a humongous fine. And that's what they're doing with Trump. They penalized him for $455 million. People like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, they have hundreds of billions of dollars. Donald Trump doesn't have hundreds of billions of dollars. He only has a couple billion. So for them to have him pay about $500 million, that's taking a big chunk of his wealth. They're basically trying to bankrupt them so that he'll stop running for president. And that's not right. And this is what scammers like to do and engage in. So this is what they're going to do. Let's say, so imagine if you're a real estate agent, or let's say you're not even a real estate agent. Let's say you bought a property at a cheap price and you want to get the max amount that you could possibly get for it, right? Imagine you buy a property for 100K, right? And all the other properties around that neighborhood are worth 200,000, but you got it at a good price. You got it cheap. So basically, the government is trying to tell you you should be selling it at the price of 200,000, but let's say you think that you have the opportunity to make a lot more than that. Let's say you're feeling lucky and you want to put the price tag of 400,000 instead of 200,000. So if you bought it at 100,000 and you make a profit of 300,000 by selling it at 400,000, but the government tells you, no, you weren't supposed to make 300,000 in profit. You weren't supposed to sell it for 400,000 if you paid 100,000. You're supposed to sell it for what it's actually worth, 200,000. And then they go and they tell you that you're going to be fined for the amount, the extra amount that you made, that extra 200,000 that you made. They're telling you that it's not right that you made that extra profit. So we're going to fine you and you're going to pay it to us. Even though the people who bought the property, the people who made the loan, even though the people who bought the property, they had no problem paying that and they haven't tried to sue you for it. They paid for the property because they had the money to be able to pay for it. They wanted to buy it and do business with you. So this is what's going on with Trump. And the bank, insurance company, people who bought the property, they all testified and they said they had no problem doing business with him and they had no problem with the business agreement. But the government is sticking its nose and saying, no, he made too much money off of this. It's not right. So, so here's the question for these leftist hypocrites out there. If the hurt party or the people who got ripped off because they supposedly paid an overinflated price on the property, or they gave a greater mortgage loan than what the actual property was worth, then why is the judge not ordering Trump to pay that money back to the company, the insurance company, the bank, or whoever bought the property? Why are they not getting the money? You see how corrupt they are? Why do they get to keep the money? Why does the government get to pocket the profit that Trump made? Can you explain that to me? Because if they're not ordering it to be paid back to those companies or to the person who bought the property, wouldn't you call that corruption? I mean, this is pure corruption. It is worse. You have to be really stupid in the head to not be able to see what's actually going on. This is not just about getting Trump to stop running for president. This is going to affect all the other investors and real estate agents out there and entrepreneurs. That's what they're getting at. They're trying to give the message that you're only allowed to make a certain amount of profit and not more. Anything else that you make above that, the government's going to come and they're going to fine you. Even if those laws are not in place yet, years down the road, they're going to come back and say, oh, you remember when you sold this property way back then for twice as much as what it's worth or triple as much and you made all this profit? Well, you weren't supposed to do that. So we're going to fine you and you have to pay that back. But you don't have to pay it back to the company or to whoever purchased it from you. You don't have to give that money back to them. You're going to give it to us. That's what the government is trying to do, essentially. And they're going to keep that money. And they're going to use it. And trust me, they're not going to use it for good. They're just going to use it to try to put more regulations, get more control of the population. So unfortunately, New York has just turned into Cuba. New York has just officially turned into Cuba. And please do me a favor. If you voted leftist and you're from New York, please stay your ass in New York. Don't come to my state.